Leinster play Leicester on Good Friday in the Aviva. I'm delighted to say Matt Williams is with us to help preview the game. Matt, good morning to you. How you getting on?
Good morning, Jim. Morning, Shane. Very, very good, mate, as always.
Fingers crossed the weather's slightly better and we get to see Leinster play more of their natural game against Leicester on Friday. Where are Leinster at the moment? Because it's difficult after a game like that where you're so heavily favourites against a team who you definitely have the number of, and you're just getting all your players back into your system. So there was a little bit of dirty diesel that they had to get out of their system, and then just as the game wore on, the cream rose to the top. So what as a coach are you looking for this week to get them a slight beat higher than they were against Ulster?
You described it very well, Jim. I was watching the match, and a few of the old mafia of Leinster players and staff, there was a few texts, and one of them, a great mate of mine, Brady Igo, says, they're very slow out of the blocks. They're not together. And then if we consider Leinster's last few months, I mean, the last time that group played in a blue jersey was January. So it's understandable, and not only understandable, it's to be expected that they came into that match not mentally unprepared. They would have been very much looking forward to it and keen after the joys of the Six Nations and the Grand Slam. But there's a whole lot of things they had to overcome, the emotions of the Grand Slam, getting their head back into it, back into the Leinster system, back playing again in the Leinster system, although it's almost identical to the Irish system, but it's just different, and that takes a bit of time. But you could see as the game went on, the confidence was there, the class was there, the determination was there, and it moved forward. And I think Leo would be, I think he'd be delighted with the last two games, not just the last game against Ulster, but the game prior to that against the Sharks at the RDS, which was one of the ballsiest, bravest draws I have ever seen. And I think Leo would be absolutely delighted with the determination the younger guys showed and the older guys showed that say to this team, the team that ran out against Ulster and will run out against Leicester, that there's something behind the club that is driving it forward, and that is an anger from what happened to them last year and a drive to get it right. And the fact that Sexton's not there is obviously a major blow. But I do think it's also a driving factor to say, well, we've got to overcome this. And obviously Josh Van der Fleer is not going to be there this week. But I think for the motivation and the drive and the fact that it's in Dublin again, and they know the final's in Dublin, but hopefully a semi-final as well, that they've got a whole lot of pluses to keep fighting for.
In a week like this again, where they are favourites against a Leicester side who they managed to beat at the same stage of the competition last year, it's not a question of complacency. It's just a question of making sure that you're the ones doing the controlling of the game flow. So what are you focusing on as a group and as a team? Is it just fundamentals? Is that all you can do in a week like this? Is just make sure that the scrum is good, the line out is good, our restarts are good, your skills are good, and then after that we know exactly what we're trying to do here? Pretty
much. They've only got a 6-day turnaround. They drew the Friday evening, which is, it throws your week out. That 24 hours is crucial. And I think what Leinster do better than just about anyone since at club level since Joe Schmidt's time is they get their week's preparation very, very accurate, as in the rest to work ratio. So they're peaking and feeling at their best for Friday night. These guys have had a long year. They've the majority of that team has just won a Grand Slam, as I said. So they're still match fit. They don't have to worry about that. They've just got to get there. That the difference between Leinster playing brilliantly and playing average is getting the ball in front to your hands or getting the ball back to your shoulder. If the ball's back here, they don't play brilliantly. If the ball's here, their system just clicked. And there's another part to that, which is shutting down what Leicester do, which is an aerial game, a very strong kicking game and a very dominant forward pack. So like all these big games, it's going to be the boys up front that get the domination, lay down the platform. And if they lay down the platform, it'll make Jamison Gibson Park and Ross Byrne's role so much more, I wouldn't say easier, but it'll allow them to be more effective. And if they're effective, that'll get that back line and the whole attack going. So you're right. There are some basics, and obviously a set play is part of it, but it's just the difference of success is literally a few millimetres and centimetres between where the passes go. And it was a wet day. You could see a lot of the passes were back on that inside shoulder. So if you're getting a pass on your inside shoulder, you have to wait. Whereas if what Leinster do really well is get a pass out in front, they accelerate onto the ball, get their footwork going, they're a handful.
You mentioned the fundamentals there, Matt, of the Leicester Tigers team, like the kicking game and winning the aerial contest and that sort of thing. And Wigglesworth has put his stamp on the team as well since he's come in. But is it just more difficult for a team to do that when you're away from home? Like Leicester Tigers at Welford Road, for example, will be a much different prospect to perhaps this Friday.
Oh, I haven't shown you're spot on. There's been so many studies done on this home and away success rate, and because it's not a rugby thing, it's a sports thing across both genders, men and women's game. If you're at home, your chances of success are exponentially higher than when you're on the road, and that's just a human thing. It's just the psychology of it. And they've tried. So many sports psychs have tried to define it and change it, and it's just how we're wired. We come home, we relax when you're in your own home. We use that word, our ground. We say, well, that's our home. So you come in and it's familiar. It's got the ring of success about it when you talk about the Aviva or the RDS to Leinster, because they've been successful there as a club and as with their national team as well. So there is a huge advantage of being at home. The other one is you don't have to get on a plane. You don't have to be in a hotel. All these little wearying things that do drag you back, as I'm sure if you talk to the Munster boys after being forced to go to South Africa last week and then come home and those poor blokes just be shattered in that travel. So there are a number of physical factors to it, but it's just that feeling, that security. It doesn't guarantee you anything, but Leicester away definitely is a much less daunting task than going to Walford Road, which is one of the toughest places in club rugby in the world to go. Having said all that, the way Leicester play is not a style of rugby I'm a fan of. I think it's an awful way of playing the game, but I also have to admit it's highly effective. The kicking game, which we go back a few years, and contesting, it takes out the need to have an organised offence. You're going forward through the boot. So you don't have to get organised like Leinster and the Irish teams are trying to do so correctly, and the French teams where you're putting the ball through a series of passes to create space, then attack space. You're not creating the space because the space is behind the defensive line. You're just attacking it with a kick. It's awful to watch, but it's effective. So if you don't deal with that, as in the high ball, if you don't deal with the kicks well and you give the opposition the ball back or you make errors on it, that invites them into the game. So I guess it comes back to Jer's original question, what do you have to do? You have to impose yourself on the game. We hear that often. What does it mean? If you get your game plan going against your opposition, what's your plan in defence and what's your plan in attack? If you get that going and can impose it on the opposition, you'll win that game. And Leinster are the best or one of the best in the world at club rugby of imposing their game on the opposition. And again, if we come back 2 weeks ago when you had the younger players and some of the old Warriors in there against the Sharks, at 17-0 down, how did they get in that game? They imposed themselves and their game plan on the opposition with some absolutely inspirational, desperational defence. And that's part of their plan, that they never beaten, they never quit, they don't know how to lose, and they just kept going at it. So all those factors add up to denying Leicester that kicking game, which is awful, as I said, but it is effective.
I know that obviously the replacement of Sexton is a distributed thing and his leadership needs to be distributed amongst the pack and everybody else, but there will automatically be focus on who fills the 10 jersey, and it's clear that the role of understudy is, at the moment, we know who that is. Having said that, Crowley was picked at the weekend for Munster and is probably going to play 10 for the rest of the season from their perspective, and how they go in the rest of the URC will probably define how close he gets to being second choice. But it's right there at the moment for Ross Byrne. If he puts in 3-4 weeks of good quality he's going to be our number 2-10 in the World Cup, and there's a lot of game time for that player given Sexton's injury profile. So it's fair to say this is a big few weeks for him.
It absolutely is a massive few weeks for Ross. I've been a big supporter of Ross Byrne over the years. I believe in the young man. I just admire how he's handled himself over the last few years. He was, when they were beaten by Ireland were beaten by England in the warm-up game, World Cup warm-up game in Twickenham 4 years ago. The entire country blamed him, and wrongly. It was the forwards. The forwards was one of the worst displays by an Irish forward pack I've experienced in the professional era. I can't recall a worse one. They were absolutely annihilated, and everyone blamed the 10. Now, he didn't play well. Really? Like, if you're winning, if you're a 10 and you're playing well, you always think the 9 guys in front of you, the pack and your 9, are the reason you're doing well, because they're giving you time and space. He had no time and space. Didn't hear him complain. He didn't point the finger. He got dropped. He got ridiculed. Everyone said, you're finished. I would go to Dublin and people would say things, how poor he was to me, and I would try and defend him, saying, look, the young guy will come back. And how he's reconstructed himself and how he's gone about grabbing his second opportunity is really admirable and I think inspirational to us all. Now, Ross, no one is going to be Johnny Sexton. No one, because Sexton's an all-time great, right? You're going to have in any sport, whatever they are, in any team sport, the person that's behind or replacing one of the all-time greats is never going to be as good. It's not possible. That doesn't make Ross Byrne a poor player. As I said, if Ross Byrne had an Australian grandmother, he would have 60 or 70 caps for the Wallabies right now. But Sexton, for so long, has been such a dominant player that Ross hasn't had the opportunities that are in the green jersey. Now, the thing that's changed about Ross Byrne is his attitude. When Ross Byrne came on the field there in the Six Nations, his eyes changed. And I was at the Virgin Media studio, and I'm pointing at it, saying that Shane Byrne and Shane Horgan, and Robbie Carney and Andrew Trim. I'm saying, look at Ross, look at his eyes, look at him. And mate, he was angry, he was desperate. And Robbie Carney said he knows the next 20 minutes might determine his next 5 years. What a brilliant observation from Rob. And Byrne went out there and he was angry, he was demanding. Before the Italian game, he was speaking, he was the leader, even though he wasn't captain. And I think he knows this. He knows he's got a second shot at the title. And I think he's grabbing it with both hands. He's not going to be as good as Johnny Sexton. So let's not get there. Let's not even bother comparing him. He just has to be competent and get the team around the field, which I know he is. And here's the other part. I hope the guy does really well, because he's been really unfairly treated by the sporting community in Ireland, spoken about very poorly. And as I said, he's conducted himself in a really fabulous manner. And I hope he goes out and shows what he can do. Again, let's drop our expectation. He is not going to put in a performance like Sexton, because he's not Sexton, and no one else is on the planet. You've got to go down to Barrett and Richie Mo'unga and perhaps Entomac over in France to start saying, who are we comparing them with? But that does not mean that he is not a very, very highly competitive professional player. He is. He's going to face Pollard, the Springbok 10, who is nowhere near as good a ball carrier and passer as Ross Byrne. Ross Byrne is far superior. Pollard is a magnificent kicker of the ball, magnificent kicker of the ball. So we have two very contrasting 10s on Saturday. But in my opinion, Byrne is better than him in one of those departments. So let's just see where the guy goes. I hope he can do it. I believe he will.
Big few weeks for him. One last question then. Josh van der Fleer is out, right? And Scott Penny was in the squad last week and has played very well and is kind of his natural successor at Leinster, and many people think Ireland as well. But is there a world in which we have some experimentation and see somebody new playing at 7? Like we've seen Peter O'Mahony play for the Lions at 7, even though it wasn't really part of his makeup. Strange things happen, I guess, is what I'm asking. Is there a world in which maybe we see Caelan Doris or Conan shift over just for a bit of experimentation's sake? You know, in a World Cup, you might need something like this.
Yeah, the answer to that is yes. I'm pretty certain Leo is only looking at the next 80 minutes. Like, he's not thinking about a World Cup. This Leinster team, mate, I think to answer that question, we've got to come back. They're angry about what happened last year against La Rochelle. They're hurt. I have very, very rarely seen players as deeply affected by defeat as Leinster were on that day. And Leo, who I know well, I coached him for 4 years. They were dragged down into dark places that I know where they had to go, but I don't want to ever go there again as a person. Like, it rips you apart. They were ripped apart. The only way to get over that is to win. They'll never get that back. That's over. That's history. The only thing you can do to heal yourself is to win. And these guys are on a mission to do that. And you look at the draw, you look at the quality of the teams about, it's going to be really hard to do. There's a high-quality series of quarterfinals coming up here, and obviously going to be high quality going forward. So Leo is only focused on beating Leicester. Full stop, end of story. Don't go past that. What he will do, he could pick Jack Hannon then. That's something I thought. What Leo is probably the best coach I've ever seen at club level in my lifetime is selections and getting his selections right. So whether he picks Penny or who I have to say has been absolutely superb over a fair swathe of this season, but hasn't got the opportunity because of the quality of the Leinster back row, is he will know who's the best person for that. He will know who's going to do the job for him that he needs to do. But what a really good dilemma, having a Lion in Conan and someone who played so superbly for Ireland when he was called upon in that last game there, that beautiful, beautiful pass he delivered for the Grand Slam winning try. Having that dilemma, do I play him or do I play Penny, who's a highly experienced guy and playing in great form? Either way, whoever's on the bench is going to have a period of time on the field.
First world problems, the kids say these days, Matt. Great to have you with us.
Yeah, that's it, mate.
Thanks a million. Cheers. Enjoy the game. It's Matt Williams there giving us a preview of the Leinster game. It's 9